KFUG-LP, Crescent City, 101.1 FM, online, kfugradio.org. You can also go to tunein.com and search KFUG and click play, and we'll be right there. Just Paul on this side. We're 6 minutes past noon, and I am joined in the studio right now by District 2 Del Norte County Supervisor Martha McClure. How you doing, Martha?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
I got you. Good. Hey, all the microphones are working. That's nice.
That's always a good thing.
That is a good thing in a radio station. So thank you for coming in and sitting down and talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
Have you enjoyed this campaign?
No.
How has this campaign been different for you? We were sort of talking about this before we went live, but...
This campaign has been a bit different because in the 20 years that I have participated in public government, I have never had my integrity questioned or my honesty. And I find it unfortunate that the LA Times and a Southern California attorney want to try to paint me in some kind of position that is not above board. Actually, the LA Times guy thinks that people could be purchased for $500, which I find absolutely offensive.
I just want to go on record. I could totally be purchased for $500. I just want to... Yeah, $500. What do you need? Not you. So let's kind of go through this. I told you something that I've often thought about. I thought it's really funny. You occupy a very interesting, as a member of the Coastal Commission, an interesting sort of locus in that any place else you're sort of viewed, at least through the eyes of the folks who are coming after the Coastal Commission, as a conservative perhaps, but certainly in the pockets of developers because you want to pave the beaches. Up here, you're like this rabid environmentalist. So what's the truth?
I think the truth is smack dab in the middle. And that's where I come from, is that I come from a place where I make decisions based on research. I make decisions based on inquiry, and then I make decisions based on the application of the project itself. And in the Coastal Act, I follow the Coastal Act, and that's the parameters in which I work from. But people aren't always going to agree with you. When you have, when I make a big decision, it's a big decision. And I'm more than willing to take the heat. In fact, prior to the meeting in which we released Charles Lester, who still works for us.
Yeah, you clarified that. I did not know that from all the media things.
Yes, he's still employed by the Coastal Commission, and
this was the executive director of the
right,
commission.
And he's writing the climate change document, and he's also writing the sea level rise application. We already have the sea level rise document, and he's brilliant.
He knows his stuff, right?
His management just wasn't where we needed it to be, and that is purely what it was. And it's unfortunate that people tried to take a spin with it. In fact, I think that's kind of unfortunate that we're dealing with all across the nation, is that people they just want to spin stuff. They don't really worry about telling the real truth.
Sure. That's an American thing, I think. Just across the country, we're the packagers. I think when historians look back on America, we'll be known for all the garbage we made because we package everything, including candidates and issues and philosophies, and everything is just packaged for you.
Right.
And if you don't fit that, or geographically, if you go someplace else and all of a sudden you're in a different package, that's got to be very jarring. Tell me about the LA Times reporter then. How did you end up having this?
Steve Lopez. Steve Lopez is a, what should I call him? He's kind of a lurker.
A lurker, okay.
A lurker, where he hangs out at the back of the meetings and he goes around. And he was at our meetings, and at a meeting, I think it may have been, I don't even know what month it was, several months ago, he finally got me. As far as I was walking in a door and he was right there. And so he wanted to talk to me, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is the LA Times.
So you knew who he was.
I'm here from Del Norte County, liking the reporters that we have at the Triplicate. They're always friendly and always nice. And here I am, like, literally he made my knees jitter because I was nervous because I had known that he had written inflammatory articles about other people on the commission. And his first question was that he wanted to know about a $500 donation that I took in 2012. And I clarified that donation. It was from a woman whose partner comes before the commission. But when I took the $500, I didn't have those two were not connected to me. You know, I didn't know that that they were partners. But he was questioning it in such a way that he was like implying that there was something wrong with it. And I said, wait a minute. What about the money that I took from Commissioner Steve Blank? What about the money that I took from Commissioner Dana Bacco? What about the money that Wendy Mitchell gave me? You know, and he didn't want to have anything to do with that. The only thing he wanted was this $500 because he was trying to paint a picture of it being some kind of conflict of interest. And it wasn't. He knows it's not. He's gone. He has enough attorneys on his side that he knows what he's doing. And then, so that kind of just was gone, and I didn't think about it anymore. And then one night, a week or so ago, I get a phone call, and it's just around the time when my kids would call, because most of the time I screen, and I didn't screen, and it was him. And he wanted to know about a day that I spent an overnight at a friend's house in Southern California, who also comes periodically in front of the Coastal Commission, not maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. He's not a big player. And he wanted to know why I spent the night there. And I said, because I befriended this person. We started talking at Coastal Commission meetings. And you have to realize this is like 4 years I've been doing this. And so I've been talking with Don Schmidt all along. And the reason that he and I even struck up a conversation was because he was a single dad of 3 teenagers. And we just started talking about kids. And I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, you know, I've been a parenting instructor. So it just kind of flowed. And from that, we struck up a friendship. And one afternoon, after the end of the Coastal Commission meeting on a Friday, he said, hey, my son's playing football tonight. Do you want to go to the football game? And we were already too late to pull out of LA because the traffic is so crazy down there. So we said, sure, we'll go to the football game. And we went to the football game. And then after the football game, we were going to get a hotel. And he said, why don't you just come to our house, spend the night, and then you can take off in the morning, which is typical Del Norte hospitality. I mean, that's what,
exactly.
That's how people act, right? And so we spent the night, left in the morning. Lopez wanted to know, one of his questions was, could you see the ocean from his house? And I said, I can't tell you if I could see the ocean from his house because I got there after dark and I left there before daylight. So, you know, so there's nothing there, but he, you know, his type of reporting is such that he likes to try to find conspiracy. And he caught me. And then after about an hour and a half on the phone, where I had tried to explain to him things that I would like to see, changes at the Coastal Commission staff, you know, different issues that are before the commission. I said to him, you probably aren't going to print anything that I've said. And then he was like, well, I'll print what I want. And we kind of have gotten a little tit for tat. And I did cuss him out. And so, he did print what I said, but only the cussing, not the substance.
Just the
but,
from the online thing I read, you don't get the hour and a half conversation that preceded it.
It's just unfortunate. I probably should not have ever cussed him out.
Oh, come on. You knew you were talking to an LA Times reporter.
At the same time, I can tell you that I felt a very big sense of relief when I did that, because finally, you know, I could tell. And then it was surprising to me that in the triplicate, he was quoted as, well, I kind of respect her for standing up to me. You know, so.
That's it. Yeah, and we talked about how conversations with reporters can go south like that and can, you know, contribute from both. I mean, as you're cussing him out, at some point in the back of your head, didn't you go, this is an LA Times reporter. This isn't going to just stay between us.
No, I knew it was Steve Lopez, and I was done with Steve Lopez.
Okay,
because
all right.
Steve Lopez bullies people.
Wow, all right.
And I bet that Steve Lopez is not going to bully me again.
I wanted you to walk in, and I wanted to go, hey, how the F are you? When you walked in, that's what I wanted to say hello. Okay, so now you know your stuff. Everybody knows that. The allegations, the investigation by the FPPC that's going on, this is just over the 500?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you think will happen with that?
It's going to be fine. Kamala Harris has already come out with some statements because the rules are very strict. But like I could give money to someone and Kai could give money to someone, and they're not considered linked.
Okay.
Even though we're husband and wife. And it's just a question of the paperwork, and it's going to be fine. It's not a...
That's what...
it costs a lot to run for office, and
Now,
I get a lot of contributions.
I remember talking to you, I think we were taking a campaign picture. It could have been, 8 years ago. I forget, it was over in the Fotique. And you said at the time it was about $15,000 to run for office. How much has that changed now?
It's still about the same.
It's still about the same. That's pretty good. You're still getting the same bang for your buck. Then,
Yep.
right? Well, let's talk the campaign then. Let's go on. First, I mean, you're one of those politicians everybody has an opinion of.
I know.
A passionate opinion of. And I guess one thing that I notice, and I've noticed just specifically on Facebook with all the comments and things that happen, is that people are really mean to you. Whereas they won't be as mean to, say, David Finnegan won't get the same sort of vicious comments that you do. I mean, name calling, really horrendous things. Why are you a lightning rod for that?
For the life of me, I
My
don't
mom
know.
thinks it's because you're a woman.
I probably, I don't really want to cloak myself
Sure,
in that, but
yeah.
I think it is. Because I think that women in politics in small rural communities, it's a very, very difficult activity to pull off. And I think that smart women have a target on their back because there's a lot of people that already have an issue with women, and now here comes a smart one, and that makes it even more difficult to understand. Plus, I'm not one that's ever kowtows. I've never ever done a vote worried about an election.
Okay.
My votes are always based on hours and hours and hours of research.
That's true. You show even to the Tea Party forum, you showed up with it was like an inch thick stack of documentation and things to back.
Well, I can't tell you. I think I've almost written a thesis with all of the different organizations that have been asking us questions to come in front of their forums, because everyone has a different set of questions.
Yeah.
And so I've been just writing, but I kind of do that anyway, where I do a lot of reading and a lot of writing.
Yeah. So what have you been doing in the campaign then? Just getting. How do you campaign for something like this? I mean, so I get Gitlin's going and he's mowing people's lawns or whatever he does, knocking on doors. What do you do?
I knock on doors. I have 2 mailers that I've put out, and I'm putting out a 3rd mailer is coming. I run ads in the newspaper, and I answer the phone.
That's what I love about this town, and that's what I love about people who
I
run
still
for
have a
office.
landline.
You still have that's great. So even if the power goes out,
464-1899.
oh, there you go, 1899. Write that down. Even if the power goes out, you can call Martha McClure at home. Then she has a. Let's talk then specific issues, the issues that are kind of the big things that come up. Then let's start with last chance grade.
Last chance grade. I just published an article on it, and it said last chance grade, big problem, big solution.
Okay. And
we need to stay focused. I believe that we are going to be able to find a bypass route around on 101. And I think that when Governor Brown just recently declared a state of emergency for the roads, that gave us a leg up.
Yeah, that was a big deal. That
That's
was kind of a bureaucratic deal. Yeah.
And so once that happens, then it goes to the federal government, and we ask for a state of emergency. And then when they deny that, which they likely will, and the reason they will likely deny it is because most of the time an emergency road has to be put back in the same place it was.
Oh, okay.
And we want a reroute. We want a reroute. So he will then be able, he's working with the head of the transportation out of Oregon, the man who's the chair of the Transportation Commission, and he's on the Transportation Committee, that then they will put together a package that I believe will find solution.
Timeline?
And it's not going to be 5 years.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be
20. Yeah, okay.
It's going to be somewhere in between there. I know that there's lots of people that have gone up on South Fork, and they know the condition of Second Bridge, and we know how long that's taking in order to get it rebuilt.
Yeah.
So when someone says that they can build a highway in 5 years, that's pandering.
That's the question. That's my next question. Actually, was then what do you say to the folks who have this plan, this 5-year plan, where they sort of seem they want to Del Nord it and let's just go up there and cut the trees down. And,
not only are they not going to be able to Del Nord it, but if we took on that kind of attitude, we would be then in court for a long time.
Yeah.
Because right now, what's happening, which this is the same thing that we did with the Marine Protection Act, the MLPAs. That because all of the agencies are together right now, they're all talking. There's probably 11, would be my guess, different permitting agencies that would have to approve the rerouting of 101. They're meeting, which is unheard of. That they're working the process before the process begins.
Wow. Okay.
Which means that not only do we have the working group, which is all of the stakeholders, which are the lumber companies, the park, environmental community, everybody is at a table, but we also have all of the permitting agencies coming together at a table.
Wow.
That's monumental. And Caltrans has put out what they call a PID, I think it is, but it's that they're proceeding ahead.
Like a project sort of,
yes,
yeah.
And they've done that. So that is a giant good sign. And I think that we will get it. When the road was originally built, it was called Last Chance Slide.
Yeah, exactly. It was never. Nobody has ever gone, this is a safe road.
No.
From like the 1890s or something. It was. This is
It's
not
been a
gonna
long
last.
time coming.
Wow.
And I think that we're going to. I think that there's going to be a light behind it, but I think that it's a mistake for the kind of little groups that are kind of spinning separately. Because they could actually create some question in some of the agency's mind, and that would not be to our benefit.
And it's been a long journey to get all of these folks together.
And we've got them all together.
How? Who's got them all
Congressman
together?
Huffman.
That's who was driving.
Jared has been monumental in taking care of this.
Great. Wow. I wish I'd shaken his hand that day at the farmer's market. You said, "Hey, come meet Commerce." I was buying some food, and I didn't. So.
Yeah, he's been a great ally for us.
So, I guess the folks who were talking about a 5-year plan, that's just not going to happen. That can't happen.
It took me 5 years to get stop signs
to get
on the corner of Pacific and A.
You're responsible for that intersection?
I am. And proud of it because it used to be a nightmare.
Then let's move on then. Let's go with Sutter and Sutter Health, Sutter Coast, the critical access thing, which is sort of maybe died down, maybe not. It's still there. Dr. Duncan has singled you out as voting for critical access. Right. Now, when he was on this last Sunday. His interview is on our website on kfugradio.org, and you can listen into that. And he explained how these meetings and how information was presented by Sutter Health, how it was a very limited set of choices that you had. They sort of came to the board and said critical access or nothing, just the way it looks right now. And so he sort of defended the almost, at least the perception of the board being like a rubber stamp sort of entity for Sutter Health's designs on one side, but then also singled you out for voting for critical access. And you said there was never a vote.
There was never a vote. There was consensus. And even when I try to go back to my records, I'm not even sure I was at the last meeting, but that doesn't really matter. I think that what matters is that we need to, turn back the Wayback Machine, Sherman, and take a look at what was happening in 2012. Why was Sutter even considering
so
this?
dour
right.
with their, yeah.
And back in 2012, we have, currently there's about 11,000 people in our community that are on Medi-Cal. And so we have a high Medi-Cal and Medicare reimbursement. And Sutter was writing all of that off as their charitable care. And that's how they were staying alive. But at the same time, they were not being able to cover their bills. And that was in 2012. And that was pre the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare Act. And that was also wrapped around a funding cycle that they thought they were going to lose. And that is what is referred to as the hospital bed tax, where big hospitals pay little hospitals to keep their doors open. And that was going away. And in 2013, they're taking a look at this, wondering what in the world do we do? In fact, Congressman Huffman, I think there were 4 or 5 hospitals in his district that were all taking a look at this because everybody was scrambling. It wasn't just Sutter here. It was everybody was scrambling. In fact, Lake County went critical access. So the report happened. There were 15 people. I've always been a bit miffed by the fact that here you had the chief of staff on the hospital refusing to participate in the discussions. I always found that as something was awry there. And so I don't know Dr. Duncan's personal background on why, but as chief of staff, you would think he would want to know what was happening and what the balance was. And and we had question after question after question for these guys. And it ended up that, it looks like critical access is going to have to be the way we go.
Or nothing.
Yeah. But now, thank you to President Obama, we now have the Affordable Care Act. And instead of them writing all of that off, they're actually making money. And the bed tax survived. And so they made even more money. And that's the reason that they had the giant increase in cash. But I think they're doing the right thing in relationship to bringing services back in. Like right now, there's a brand new CAT scan. In fact, I was walking door to door and I met the woman who just moved here that's the radiologist that runs the CAT scan. And she said it's just delightful to have such a state-of-the-art machine that she can use in such a small community. And they are talking about, they're in their final discussions with a dialysis group where they're going to bring in dialysis, they're going to bring in infusion. And I think that we are well on our way to having a good support system. And possibly for the people who are like 130% against Sutter, well, maybe now is the best time we've ever had for some other hospital group to take a look at them, since they're on the right side of their budgeting.
Do you think Sutter is looking to get out?
I don't think so. I don't have a clue on their corporate plan, but
that's actually something that Dr. Duncan suggested, and he was getting folks to go to the meeting, the health board meeting, and that happens. It's like the last Tuesday of the month.
And when we were doing the Camden group, I mean, we actually had them interview 5 different hospital organizations and talk about what their structure was like, what their governance was, and all of that. And would they be considering, if they were to take over Sutter here, would they consider critical access? And all of them said yes.
Wow,
but that's what it was then.
Yeah.
And all of them also had regional governing boards, because that's a big one locally, I think. And I don't really understand that structure. I don't think it makes much of a difference.
Well, it was like 2 cooks, is that, or is it that kind of thing? I mean, sharing it's power sharing with.
Well, like Asante, for instance, Asante has a regional. They have their regional board, and then they have advisory boards from their others.
Okay.
So.
Okay, and how is it with Sutter?
Sutter, currently we have our own board.
Yeah.
They backed off on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they were going to try to do it regionally, but I think all of their billing now may be done regionally. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. So I mean, at the very least, it seems like that whole issue has sort of been tabled for now, just simply because Sutter's making money. Yeah. Okay.
Sutter's making money. Sutter's bringing in. I mean, now we have orthopedics, which is going to be giant, because that was the majority of the people that were flown out were from, legs and arms and feet being broken, and then of course we still have the cardiac stuff, but that, in such a small community, I think is going to be a long one to get to. But now that we have these orthopedists, that's going to really help. Because for years and years, our children who needed to go to an orthopedic surgeon for something had to go to Willits.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that was the Medi-Cal doctor. And now he's retired, but now Sutter has brought one in. So now our kids are covered. So when they fall down the playground and break their leg, they're covered.
The airport.
The airport
terminal. I'm just jumping. Do we need this?
We need a new terminal.
Okay.
And part of the reason we need a new terminal is to meet the TSA requirements.
Sure.
We just, even though we have the little trailer, and it's kind of funky out there, it needs to be more secure. And they have to have a better transition between enplaning and deplaning.
Okay.
And that's the reason. Now, does it have to be as big as it is? I don't have that answer. I think that by receiving 95% of the money from the feds, we should probably get as big of a bang for our buck as we can.
Yeah, good point.
Because it's going to be another 60 years before it comes again.
True. And what I guess my issue, I was afraid it seemed like, one of those instances of short-sighted thought, if we build it, they will come. Which doesn't happen with like the wastewater treatment plant, things like that. If we build it, then people, no, that didn't happen. Whoops, and now we're on the hook for it. But yeah, the 95%, I mean, I was aware going to the meetings and hearing all of these numbers discussed, how much of it was coming from outside and how little of it Delaware County actually had to pony up. But it seemed silly to me, this huge fancy terminal for 2 flights a day. But yeah, I guess you've got to think for the future and then think about down
60 years out.
That's 60 years out. What was it? The director of the authority, the airport authority, was saying was that this will keep us until we have a spaceport. Is that what he said in that meeting? I think. So, what other issues are important to bring up? Do you feel before the voters of Delaware County, before District 2?
Well, I think that our homeless issue is huge.
That is a big deal right now.
And it's a big deal, and we have to figure a plan. And so far, the community we haven't come together to make a plan. We have lots of people who have a headset that if you were to give service to people, that will make more people come. But all of the white papers show, the research shows that if you can find housing, if people are housed, it doesn't increase your homeless population. In fact, when you take a look at...
It doesn't increase?
It does not increase.
Okay.
And if you take a look at what Utah has done, what Hawaii, New Mexico, there are samples all over the country where they have been able to do housing projects that have worked.
This Sunday, there will be an interview we pre-recorded earlier this week with, I believe his first name was Steve, last name was Brazil, who I'd met before, but I'd forgotten. Celia Perez was in here, Eric Apperson, Jerry Johnson from the VFW, and Dr. Roy, talking about homelessness, specifically mental illness issues with homelessness. But then it sort of morphed into the larger homeless thing. Dr. Roy talked about a plan that he had sort of put forth or championed not too far back to use the old McCarthy site as kind of a homeless staging area. What were your thoughts on that?
I would think that would be a tremendous place because that was my old classroom.
Yeah.
But inside that classroom, there's a place to do laundry, there's a place to eat, and there's a place to take a shower.
Yeah. And
if you are a person that can have clean clothes on, take a shower, and have something in your belly, chances are your day is going to go a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I started working with that same group that you just mentioned, and because I wanted to do the homeless, let's figure a plan. And then when you look at it, it's so huge that we said, let's just start with veterans. Let's just bring the homeless veterans in. And that was a surprise to me because I went out to some of the camps. I toured with Jerry, and we walked and talked to guys that were in the camps. One of the things that I was surprised about is that there were some veterans that said, oh, no, I'm not a veteran. I was like, wait a minute. I thought you just said you were well, I didn't serve overseas.
Oh, that's right.
I didn't serve in combat. And I was just flabbergasted that they have such an honor that they say, nope, I'm not. So we worked through that. But then what happened is that we got some guys to the Veteran Services Officer. He was able to issue them a voucher. But then the voucher said, move to Curry County or move to Humboldt County.
Wow.
Because we are in this kind of weird little catchment area and where our service comes out of Roseburg, but vouchers can't cross state lines. So we had this big problem. And met with the folks from Roseburg, from the Veterans Office, and met with the Crescent City Housing Authority, called the Curry County Housing Authority, and talked with the veterans representative in Eugene, and we were able to get those vouchers pushed through Curry to us.
Okay.
So those guys now have housing ability.
And Jerry Johnson was touting something like a 95% success rate with homeless veterans that he encounters and deals with.
Right. Because there's such an incredible support system that comes, because it's almost like wraparound services. And they come and they talk with them, how are you doing? Let's go have coffee. what's your laundry look like? I mean, it literally helps them rehabilitate back into a living situation that they can manage.
And the group that we had here, I mean, by the end of the interview, we were like, I felt like we'd solved it.
But McCarthy would be great because there's
that's-
also the 2 other classrooms
Yeah.
that could double as sleeping quarters.
And what this was an idea, I guess, Dr. Roy talked about this. Jerry Johnson was talking about it sort of being analogous to a staging area in the military.
Correct.
Just someplace that is safe where you can come
Correct.
and be put in touch with the resources that are already in place.
Plus, there's a beautiful greenhouse.
Oh, yeah, really?
An ample place for garden, basketball courts.
Oh, wow.
So there it could be a place that could be very comfortable.
I
for
want to be
people.
homeless now. No, I don't want to. And even Sheriff Apperson talking about the new liaison, the outreach officer that he has, the deputy that goes out and is specifically tasked with interacting with the homeless population and not like rousting them interacting.
Correct.
But, going and talking to
that
them.
only puts people deeper into the woods.
Exactly.
And what we want to do is try to find out what kind of services, which was amazing to me when I've gone into some of the camps and talked with folks. And part of it is that they just kind of want to be left alone, but that's part of their I call it a paralyzed state because they are so down and out and stuff has been so hard.
Yeah, it becomes cycle.
I mean, we all have had those times where we get to a level of stress where we just can't function.
Exactly. You just end up mired in like the inertia of it all. Yeah.
Just let me take a nap.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things that I've been trying to get is that, and they're doing it in Santa Cruz, and that's using one of the storage containers that people can come and put their possessions in there for the day into a big plastic container, and then they can go about their business. Because it's very difficult that if you've been court ordered, for instance, to go to a AA meeting or that you're supposed
You've got to take everything you own.
You have to take
with you.
everything you own because otherwise it will be gone. And so if we could give a place where they could store it during the day, they would look just like the rest of us walking around town.
So what needs to happen? Because I got a sense from having these folks in this studio this week that there is the will, there are the resources,
and there's a whole bunch of money coming.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the next step?
Community
then?
plan. There needs to be a community plan that has the dialogue that talks about how many, all of the data, and then to back it up with how are we going to approach it.
Okay, so what's the process for creating a community plan? Who is tasked with doing that?
I think that would be the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
And I think that we should do it by first generating just some community meetings of just getting people the dialogue. Because people, like I said earlier, people have a headset that, oh my gosh, if you help, there's going to be 10 more guys behind them.
Exactly.
And that statistically is not correct. And I think that we can get around that. And especially like one of the vets that I visited with, he's been a 50-year resident here. I'm not talking about strangers.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people who could be your uncle or your auntie or your grandma or your grandpa. So I think we should focus on them.
Tell me about the moderate majority.
The moderate majority
Yeah.
for the election?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think that's because there is a very plan with one current sitting supervisor that thinks that we're turning the corner, and we're going to turn the corner by having this new elected force. And we're going to be conservative, and we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe that my community is broken. I believe that my community has stuff that we still need to improve on, but it's definitely not a place that I would consider broken. I mean, I travel a lot, and when I'm coming down Crescent City Hill, there's not another better sight of just like, home.
Yeah, but you grew up here.
I grew up here, that's right.
You helped put it back after the tsunami. I mean, it's not Santa Clarita. And
I don't want to live in a community that everybody's required to have their grass to be the same height.
No, exactly. And I also don't want to live in a community where I can't hand something out a car window.
Absolutely.
That seems like ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
It's like an end around civil liberties just because of offended sensibilities.
It's called freedom of speech.
Here you go. So there is, and this is something, and that's an interesting thing. I mean, just talking about the history and somebody being a part of this. I want to talk about just briefly a couple of excerpts from. There was a post on the Crescent City or Looking to the Future, the Facebook group, which has done some remarkable things this year.
I know. I'm excited about the dog park.
And I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
No.
I think it'll be cool.
Not a dog park. I take my dogs.
I don't
out to
have
the
a dog
lake.
anymore.
Oh, there you go.
So I could go and visit dogs.
You could go there. You just want to go. You'll be the creeper who's hanging out at the dog park watching the dogs play. That's
Lurker.
No. I'm not a fan of dog parks. I like going out someplace and out off of Kellogg Road. I would take my dogs out there, and you're not supposed to. My dogs would sit and stay. They were good dogs, and I only saw a ranger once, and he looked at me and just kept going. It wasn't I like that. That seems I don't know, a dog park. I'm not a dog park fan. Cat Island, though, I'll talk about. No, so this is a community. This is a post in Looking to the Future, and it's by a member. The name is April Renee, and this is just an excerpt because this is a long post asking some questions about Delaware County, Crescent City, and then for like a day and a half afterwards, I think last time I checked, and it was last night, there were more than 70 comments on it. People coming in and then commenting on each other, and there were people who were getting a little miffed. And other folks who had real suggestions. But the things that April said, this is a quote now. As a new member to this community, I'm appalled at the condition of this town for its locale. I'm from California originally and have always enjoyed the coast, blah, blah, blah. Goes on about Florida for some reason for a while. This town makes me sick to my stomach. There's not a peaceful sight of scenery to drive through. There are bums and beggars everywhere, every freaking where. Why? Then further down, please help me understand why this town is so ugly at face value. Why should I remain a member of this group if we're only going to be, and then she talks about dog parks and how she's not a big fan of dog parks. Plants are nice scenery for those that will attend the farmer's market, but geez, what a waste of money while there are far bigger issues to be dealt with in this town. I thought it was interesting in that that idea that this town is broken is everywhere.
I'll tell you. I think that Delaware County is still in recovery. You have to think about towns and how long it takes them to rise and be a community.
Mm-hmm.
In 1964, we were devastated.
Yeah.
And that's not that long ago.
Nope.
And so I think that we're still in recovery. Now, as far as what the buildings look like, that all belongs to the people who own the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
As far as it being no place to drive scenic, I have to find that that's probably not correct, since I can go down by the pool and sit at the harbor. I can drive on Pebble Beach. I can go to Jed Smith. I can go to Florence Keller Park. There are lots of options of very beautiful things. Now, am I only going to react to the old Daly's building that has sandbags up around it?
Yeah.
The county doesn't own that.
Mm-hmm.
The county doesn't maintain that. That's owned by a private citizen. And in fact, that same citizen owns most of downtown of the buildings that people refer to as empty. Mm-hmm. Now, when you want to take a look at, well, what happened to Ray's? Well, the owners of Ray's they passed. Mm-hmm. It went into bankruptcy, and they closed.
Yeah. And I would go shop at Ray's because when I go in there, nobody else was there. So that's probably why it's closed.
And, but those are issues of business.
Yeah.
Those are not issues of government. Mm-hmm. And I think that people need to realize that, because you many times have someone who will want smaller government, but why aren't you doing this?
But why exactly?
Guess what?
So I guess that's interesting to have, I see exactly your point that it's not government's place to, I don't know. What are you going to do? You're going to pick somebody and give them money and put them in a location and put them in business. But you pointed out when we were talking earlier about it's government's job to make sure the infrastructure is there.
Correct. And one of the biggest infrastructure is our broadband.
See, everybody touts that. And so how?
Because we're redundant.
Exactly.
And we weren't redundant for a number of years. And guess how we got to be redundant?
How did we get to be redundant?
Through the hospital.
Oh, okay. All right. For the connectivity. The business plan of talking about we've got this broadband, and people have talked about a call center. I don't buy, because no matter how depressed Crescent City, it's not going to be cheaper to have a call center here than it is in India or Pakistan. So, it's not.
Except I do have a friend who lives up on, up on the Columbia River, way up towards the top. And she works in a call center. And it's on a reservation. It's on a Native American call center. And it's huge.
Wow.
And they only do Apple. And they only do Apple from stores, from people that are that are the merchant calling them.
Oh, okay.
So they're
Okay.
not just a call center, for a random help. I can't find my name in my contact list, but they're actually a call center, and they're out in the middle of nowhere.
So what would you do with the broadband here then?
I think we need to beef it up still. I think it needs to be faster. And I think that we should be advertising as a great location for people who work from their computer. And I know probably at least a dozen people that are making a living at their house.
Wow. That's interesting.
And I think that kind of business plan is something that we should be encouraging.
So this feeling, and this whole election cycle, I've been thinking about this. It's that you've got Bob Berkowitz. He's talking term limits, which I think is un-American and wrong-headed. But this frustration that I sense in the community, that I'll be honestly, you're like one of the few people I run into that doesn't share that. There are people out here that are frustrated by the way this town looks and by the perceived problems that are here. Everything from homelessness to the hospital to last chance grade. Everything that everybody's talking about this election cycle. For you, is it a matter of just people not having the long view?
Yeah, I think people need to have the long view, and I also think that people need to take a look and figure out how it gets done. I mean, I heard last week, I was listening to one of your interviews, and one of the people that you were interviewing was like, well, the county's not even cleaning up these flower boxes.
It's not the county.
It's like, that's not the county's job.
Yeah.
Let's come on.
And I don't want that box cleaned up until the blackberries come in. I just want to say that. After I get the blackberries this summer, sure, clean it up.
But I think that there's a lot of people that love our community. And yes, we have issues in our community. And yes, there's always room for improvement. But I can tell you that traveling up and down the 1,100 miles of the California coast, name a city. Tell me.
Mendocino.
Tell me what you want. Okay, Mendocino, no water. Mendocino having restrictions on building. Mendocino, I can go Venice, having crime. You can just pick a community. And it's easy to sit in your community and kind of paint a negative, to do a negative brush. It's not healthy.
No, but I think it's endemic here.
Well, have you ever read The History of Del Norte?
Yes.
Where he wrote in the 1800s about how he was questioning why there wasn't kind of a energy here.
It's always been like that, hasn't it? You're absolutely right. Yeah. Correct. And that was a joke that I've shared with folks, is that we've never really and then you've talked about the tsunami devastation, of course, and then after that we basically, as a resource-based economy, have our legs chopped out from under us.
Well, and even when we were when I was here as a kid, we lived in a little tiny 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, flat-top house with 5 of us there, and my grandma and grandpa staying most of the time.
Wow.
And
where was that?
Over on Loth. In fact, that's where I started my campaign.
Oh, really?
That's my first door I go to.
Oh, that's
is my old house. And my dad was a logger. So he was making money, but when people talk about, well, the heyday, we want to take it back, drive around, look at the housing stock, and know that the good old days, I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow.
Because we've struggled for a long time as a community. But I'm proud to say that I was able to come up out of here, get a college education. My children were able to all get college educations and all be fruitfully employed. So there's opportunity.
Okay. That's interesting. To point out. So then, how do you deal with that? And as an incumbent, that's got to be really, really important. How do you deal with that sense of well-founded, endemic, completely spurious, whatever? How do you deal with that sense of frustration?
It's not really frustration. I think that we need to find a way around it and ways to improve. Like, for instance, since I've been on the board, we did do all of the sewer lines and got all of that up and running in a proper way. We were able to...
Eric Weir is Superman.
I mean, we moved out of trailers.
Yeah. That's true.
So we've done, you just have to take it a bite at a time and just keep moving the ball forward.
Okay, then we've got just, 5-10 minutes. However much we have to get out of the way of this guy. He's on at 1, so we've got 10 minutes till then. Take us then into, we've been talking about the past and talking about take us into the future and what you can contribute to that future, what you'd like to see, what your vision of Del Norte County down the road is.
Gosh, I think that we need to, well, obviously we're going to focus on our ingress and egress and make sure that we can come both ways. And that also includes 199, which is another hot topic, big button issue, but we all know we need the bridge repaired.
Yeah.
So we're going to need to make sure that we focus on 101, 199. I think
about
that
197. Let me just jump in there. What are your thoughts about widening North Bank Road?
That one I'm not sure why we're going to need to do that, because I think a truck could come down 199 all the way, but it might be the squeeze trees.
The squeeze trees, yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know exactly why that was determined by the engineers that do the planning. I think that we need to continue to operate with a supportive planning department, because I think that people can actually go in and take out a permit and get it fairly quickly compared to other communities. I think that we need to continue to support children, needless to say, and education. A dream would be for me, would be a culinary teaching center.
You've talked about that for years, yeah.
And I've got the plans. I just haven't gotten any. There's not been a bite yet. But as soon as we get the bite, because I kind of fantasize that maybe we could become the foodie place. That, let's drive up the coast. There's that town.
Yeah.
That has all those really cool places to eat. And I also think that we should recognize that we have lots of people that are investing here. We have Rumianos that has done a remarkable job. We're looking at what they're doing at Northwoods, that there's going to be another giant. We're looking at a new hotel on the corner instead of a rundown. There's progress. And we just need to keep progress moving forward. And I don't know why people get negative.
And it's interesting even to talk about, going back into the 19th century, that people have kind of always been negative here. Why is that? Go for a walk in the woods.
That's right. Because then you should come out positive.
Yeah, exactly.
Or go throw some rocks at the ocean.
And
you could have a great day and come out being a happy camper.
Wow. So what's next for you in the campaign? How are you going to spend the next 2 weeks?
I'm going to...
And then I'll ask you, how are you going to spend the 2 weeks after that? But I guess that...
The next 2 weeks I'll plan on... I'm almost finished on knocking on all my doors. And then I will do a analysis of that, and then do a get out the vote. And then a wait and see. And I'm at a place where I'm going to be okay one way or the other.
Really?
I love doing my job. I hate campaigning.
Yeah.
So that's what I don't like about it.
Does it get harder each time?
It gets weirder.
Weird?
It just takes on these nuances of, and you get stuff that, is not correct. And
so, and I'm sorry, I want to step back just a second to the moderate majority, to the sort of the block that you were presenting as an antidote to
the endorsements that have been endorsed by the Democratic Central Committee.
The what?
The 3 endorsements by the Central Committee.
The endorsees?
Yeah.
Is that what it? Okay,
yeah.
all right.
So you have Catherine Murray, David Finnegan, and myself.
Okay, all right. So you're putting yourself up there as what? The experience?
Experience, and I think reason. And I think capacity and ability, because I think that there are some people that are running that just don't have much depth in relationship to understanding. It's like, I want to have a happy place. How in the hell are you going to get a happy place?
Yeah, which committee do you call? Call David.
Exactly.
He'd know which committee to call. That's
right.
The committee
right. So,
of happiness.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, Martha McClure, anything you want to leave us with before we say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you to the voters of Del Norte County and the people that have supported me, and I think it's a swell place.
Great. All right, Martha McClure, incumbent she's running for re-election for District 2, Del Norte County Board of Supervisors. Thanks for stopping in today and talking to us. I waited until you were drinking water before I said that.
So thank you for having us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll get back into the music here. Sean Waddell.